So this discussion today that we're having, it's from three organizations. It has been organized by three organizations, three groups. One, Anouba Meerol, second would be Mingsel, and the third would be Center for Research and Advocacy Manipur. So,
Okay.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
So how was the first sessions actually? I was actually trying to, join and see, but I could not.
Okay.
But actually, I'm not used to with all the social media, Of course, I'm with Zoom, okay, I'm habituated, and some other I'm habituated. But Instagram, I think this is for the first time.
Same here. Like I use this Instagram, but I've never been on live. So
Okay, okay.
it was little nerve-wracking and confusing actually.
Mhm. So are they joining?
Yeah, I think we can start. So should we start?
I mean, it's depend upon on the host.
Okay, I think we can start. So, yeah. So
Okay.
I'll give an introduction of you to the other people, So today, for the last session of today's discussion, we have Anthony Debbarma. He is the Secretary General of the Borough People's Human Rights Organization, which is a human rights NGO based in Tripura. And this organization mainly works on the promotion of human rights in the region, with a special focus on the indigenous people's right. And Mr. Debbarma is also the convener of the Joint Action Committee of Civil Society. And now the speaker can start his presentation.
Yeah, maybe you can also highlight the topic that we are going to discuss
Yeah.
today
Okay. So
to
the topic
the
is
other organizations.
yeah. So the topic is mainly this one. Oil palm pursuance in the northeast of India.
Mhm. Okay, and thank you, Elizabeth, for the invitations to the Instagram live. And in fact, this is for the first time. And of course, the introductions about me is yes, I was, and of course, but now I'm having more with the other responsibility. But if required, of course, I will share what kind of the other engagement that I am having. But yes, I think the topic that which we are going to discuss today is very important, and I think it is very much the burning issue to the northeastern part. And because northeastern part has been always a target for any kind of, you know, developmental project. But I don't know how far it is for the people cause, or is it for the just corporate or the for the just central government to benefit. But whatever we see and whatever we feel and experiencing the past and the now present, we have been always a targeted, you know, regions, and but where our human rights is never being addressed and never being taken into considerations and never been, taken into concern. So now we have been seeing one after another project is actually being uh, in pipeline, particularly targeting to the northeastern regions and northeastern land. And if I have to actually speak or to discuss about so-called the development, is basically it is not for the regions because the region is self-sufficient with all whatever the natural resources or whatever the culture that we have, and the kind of forest that we live and the kind of culture that we were attaching in from time immemorial. But all those rights and all those practices is always being targeted, and we become the victim of all those projects that is being in pipeline by the central government of India. Now, why we are so much like always the against of this kind of development? First is that the kind of development that is coming into a pipeline to the northeastern regions is never being taken consent from the regions. Second, we are not being consulted and our voice are not being heard and we are not being invited to the discussion table. Now, when the decisions are only being made in Delhi, excluding the northeastern people, then it becomes the doubt and the questions. And in fact, we are not against of any kind of development. But the question is, what kind of development and for whom the development is? And what is the prospect and the prosperity of so-called the development that you are actually being projecting to the whole region? Now, to come back to a kind of issue where we are against of all this kind of development. Now we have witnessed, particularly like Tripura, if I have to, refer, you see, first reason is that our lands are being grabbed by the illegal migrants since from the time that we have merged with India. And that was a root cause why we are still fighting and struggling for our land right. Now, second, come back to the kind of policy that government of India has come is CA. Before, when the CAB has been put into table, we all protested, but our voice are not being heard and we are not being consulted. Now, this is the reasons of populations transfer to the regions, and we are facing the problem of our land rights, and as a whole, in nutshell, everything which is in the limelight of the development, so-called. Now, when you transfer the populations, we lost our land, we lost our culture, we lost our identity, we lost everything. Now, secondly, come back. We are already submerged by these populations, and the northeast and the Tripura is densely, it is forest, where our culture, where our identity and livelihood is so connected. Now, these forests are being replaced by the imported plant. The first plant that is being imported, particularly in Tripura, is teak tree. But as per the scientific, we all knew that any imported plant, you cannot go beyond 10% of your total forest land. Now, Tripura is having 60% of the total land, 60% is the forest land, and 40% is the, habitable land. Now, this 60% is submerged by the plantation of teak tree, which has already crossed 35% of the total forest land. Now, after that, follow-up is the rubber plantations. Rubber plantation is also crossing more than a 10%. Now, when you talk about the 60% of the dense forest or the total forest land, now when 35% and now decide more than 10%, or let us assume, okay, let us assume 10%. Now, how much? 45% is already planted or being covered by the imported plants. Now, both these rubber and teak trees are very much dangerous to the environment and to the whole climate change that we are talking of now. Now, when we are already in a very problem or in a very problematic futures or very devastating futures, now we are coming back with the palm oil. Now, what is palm oil? Everybody knew. I don't want to explain on that. But what will affect to the region and to the northeast is against the land right and the impact of the environment. We, the northeastern peoples, are actually contributing more than 90% of the forest land to the nations. And we are so much resourceful with our natural resources. And these natural resources are being misused by the kind of policy that the central government is making. Now, when this palm oil, I don't think that many of these scholars in a university or many of the intellectuals or many of the students will not be aware about what this palm oil is all about. But today, at least like you all, who is so much, advanced in terms of knowing and your curiosity was there. That's why you are now into this fastest update informations where you are trying to articulate, where you are trying to contextualize the impact of these palm oil plantations. Now, when we are already in problems with this rubber and tick free and many others, imported crops and imported plants, and of course for that sake, Jatropha plantation also has affected a lot in the northeast and particularly in Tripura. Now, when we talk about this palm oil, what is going to happen? See, forget about the whole issue of the oil that will affect our body. But first of all, the nature, the forest itself, the earth itself, the environment itself will be totally destroyed. Because we have seen Malaysia, we have seen Indonesia, because I myself was in the part and process when the Indonesia had protested against the Indonesia government in the Paris during the time of climate change summit in 2015. Now, where the other country has actually faced so much problems of their livelihood, of their land and of their forest and of their culture, and they're bending this, the palm plantations. And even as I have heard about the Sri Lanka government taking the first step to disband all this plantation of palm oil and destroy whatever is planted. Now, whatever people waste or whatever people doesn't want, and they are throwing to the dustbin, now our government of India is picking up of that waste to actually bring back to the northeastern region. So, what is the rule and the of the northeastern people in the process? Now, if you and I, or if the northeastern people start protesting against these plantations, then again we will be branded and we will be put under NASA, under whatever this black law, and that's why therefore the Armed Forces Special Power Act is still existing. But when they have introduced the Armed Forces Special Power Act, is in order to combat the armed groups. But today we don't find or we don't see an armed group is operating in the regions, and why the Armed Forces Special Power Act is still active in the regions. The only reason is that they can bring all this kind of unwanted project to the northeastern regions so that they can benefit for the corporate and for the other company where they can actually extract the blood of the northeastern people. So today we wanted to address this issue that we the northeastern people usually use much oil. We always like boiled food, and that's why our health are much more healthier than the rest of India. And the reason where they don't like oil, and you are bringing the plantation to the regions. For whom? So is it for the people of these regions, or is it for the interest of this corporate, or for the interest of other international corporate or multi-international company? Now the question need to raise why this palm oil plantation is so much important in the region of Northeast. Is it necessity to really plant, or is it necessity for India to only, you know, have a palm oil just because it is cheap? So now, what about those master oil or other, soybean oil that is being produced in the country? What about their security of their business and trading? If you are really focusing on the palm oil. Now, if the palm oil comes into being, now it is not only going to affect the environment or the climate change, it is also going to affect the entire ecosystem
That is,
actually, so rich.
can you?
Yeah,
Hello?
there was a break.
Okay. So the entire biodiversity will actually come up because we, the indigenous people in the Northeast, are depending upon on the forest resources. And we do have this traditional medicines plant in the forest where we still practices that. And these medicine plants are very, very vital and very, very important uh, for our survival. So the entire biodiversity will collapse, and even the underground water. We are already having a problem uh, of water in the northeastern region because of so many other factors like the rubber plantations. Because when you actually do the process of the rubber tree, using acid, and all this acid is being accumulated into the earth, and the water that we drink actually get intoxicated, and our health and our upcoming generation health are actually slowly deteriorating, and it is being affected to our body. So this is only one reason that we are having and we are facing. And secondly, the kind of mining, like you see the gas mining, petroleum mining, and uranium mining, and so many other mining that is taking place in Northeast and even in Tripura are actually affected because we have many instant examples where this wind is sea is been mining and lot of chemical is being actually flown to the river and to the stream, to the ponds, and to the paddy field, and where they have actually killed many creatures and animals and the trees and other, domestic animals, and even the human being. So these are already affecting the full process of our life, of our health. And today you are drinking this palm oil, which is very much unwanted. And where even like small country like Sri Lanka, then the other Indonesia, Malaysia are totally destroying this and disbanding this. And we are welcoming this. Are we into a 21st century, or are we are in the 15th, 16th century? I wonder. And why the country is so silent into this? Or is it just because it is the Northeast people who is going to face, and Northeast region is going to submerge with these plantations? Is it that they are just looking into it? But let me tell you, it is because of the Northeast today the whole India is surviving, because Northeast has been actually supporting in terms of economic growth to the nations, because we produce gas, we produce petroleum, we produce this power, and that's why the power is being surplus in the country. Because Tripura alone is supplying the power to Bangladesh, to Bhutan, to Nepal, and to the rest of the country. So now these palm oil plantations will actually take away all the forest land. And once if this palm oil is being planted, then you see the entire biodiversity will be destroyed, and only this palm tree will be standing across the whole region. And what will happen? Then the water crisis will be there, and lot of multi disease borne will be there, and the rainfall will actually, now it has been already reduced, and it is further going to reduce more than 60 to 70% the rainfall. Then how are we going to survive under this kind of conditions? So one need to research and one need to actually question why this palm oil is so dangerous. Because if you really see, this palm tree is not going to produce any rich biodiversity or a dense forest. Because we knew those palm tree where it is being planted, we saw livelihood and their land rights and their human rights and their entire culture. See, when I talk about the culture, it has got many analysis and it has many meanings to it. The indigenous people in the Northeast, our lives have, like from the you right from the beginning of our human life to our marriage life and to our death, it is being interconnected, culturally. So when this culture is being destroyed, then the value of human change is totally destroyed. The culture is destroyed. And when your culture is destroyed, then it is the questions of your survival and it is the question of your identity. How are you going to prove, or how are you going to be proud that I'm so and so? So that identity will totally be lost, because our identity is because of this forest and because of this land. And where there is no land, there is no identity. Where there is no land, there is no culture. Where there is no land, then there is no language. Then if these things are being destroyed, then how are you going to proudly say that I'm an indigenous people of the Northeast, or I'm a Tiprasa from Tripura, or you are Manipuri mighty from Manipur, or you are Naga from Nagaland, or you are Mizo from Mizoram, or you are Arunachal from Arunachal, you are Assamese from Assam. So entire, demography will change and bring a devastation to the northeastern region. So that's why I wanted to actually tell the people, see, the northeastern people never consume this fast food. And particularly the fast foods are prepared by who? By those people who doesn't have any main source of income. So they are trying to actually sit into the street and buy the cheapest oil and make samosa, singara, puri, and so and so forth. And if you take this food, then immediately you know, if you take the fast food, what happened to your health. And now expect your health is already being destroyed. And on top of that, the oil that you are going to use is a palm oil. And palm oil, as I have heard and as I have seen, and as I have analyzed it, it is very dangerous and it is very harmful to the human being and also to the, creatures. So there are so much to understand on why we are protesting against the palm plantations. Now we have so much other sources of producing the oil, but why we are not promoting them? And I have seen, like even in Manipur and Nagaland, Mizoram, they are making this edible salt from the mountain rock. Now, so that is very organic and that is very scientific, which is not used by any chemical or any machinery, and which is very pure and where you really get a rich iodine. Now, all those rich resources that we have will be totally destroyed by these plantations. And the entire, as I have said, the biodiversity that we have, such a rich biodiversity we have, that will be totally destroyed. So now the questions, even if we're not against the, palm plantation, but if we really look into the forest department procedures and plantations and the master plan and management, there is always so-called the biodiversity need to be protected and dense forests need to be actually planted. Now, at least in Manipur, I have seen farming alongside where the community is actually preserving the dense forest, where you can find all the biodiversity plants, and medicinal plants, and even all the creatures are found there. But you come and see in Tripura once upon a time, you find everything, and today it is no more. So now you only find big plantation, rubber plantation, and now we are trying to, replace with palm tree. Then where is the forest? Now the question, where is the forest? And when this forest is no longer there, then your ecology and your ecosystem is totally destroyed. And as we all knew, a mature tree produces 260 pounds of oxygen, where it can make uh, eight family, can survive just because of one that mature tree. Now, if that kind of trees are being, destroyed, now and you are replacing with a palm tree, how are you going to survive? It is not a question that we are going to get a, cheap in cheaper price, but it is a questions of your survival. How are you going to survive? So I think it is very high time for the northeastern people and particularly the younger generations, the young people, the boys and girls, should come forward and start raising the voice, saying that we don't want this palm plantation because it is not only going to destroy our, health or our environment, but it is also going to take away our land right. And when our land right, when our lands are being grazed by all those, multi-international company, all the corporate, then we're gone. We are finished. Now we are seeing in India, even the airport and even the others, which is government of India is owning, are all being handed to the company. So now company has no rules and regulations, and they don't have any legal procedure to, abide by, and there's no such kind of guideline. And even if we are going to fight through a legal system, how are we going to fight? Because they are company and they don't have any legal prospect to safeguard certain rule and certain regulations and certain policies. Wouldn't be there. So that is where the threat lies. And now, how the Northeast people is going to react is a question. How are we going to promote the only the interest of the corporate and the government of India that is deciding our lives sitting in Delhi? Or are we going to safeguard our land and territory and our identity and our culture? That is a question. So in a whole, nutshell, it is not only like destroying our health, but it is going to destroy the entire system of indigenous people that we are living in peace and harmony with the ecosystem, with the ecological balance, and the entire that forest, the ritual that we actually practice, that we worship, and that we actually treat forest as a secret forest and others and so forth. So all those customary practices, all this traditional belief will be actually totally destroyed and been violated, and we will be nowhere. And we will be like red Indian people where they don't have even the culture, their identity, their lands, and so forth. So we don't want is to happen to the region, and in respective of different color of the party or the caste, I think people should stand together and fight for the right and fight for our self-determination. Self-determination doesn't mean that we will be going against the whole system of the nation law, but we will be within the nation law and we will respect to that. And of course, we welcome the development, but not the development that the region doesn't want. Let the development take place, that the region welcome, that the region, benefit out of that, and let the environment impact assessment first need to be analyzed and studied and come out with a proper document and address to the northeastern regions and to the rest of the world. That is, and secondly, that social economic impact assessment also need to analyze and need to see in a broader sense. Thirdly, of course, although it is in the third point, but it is the first and the foremost and a necessity, that is our culture and political right need to be protected. And I think that is where we will be actually, we will able to, live with dignity, with our identity, and with our culture and with our custom. Otherwise, we will be simply, been thrown away from our own land, from our own regions, then we will not able to even claim that we are the same soil. So it is a question of our identity and culture, and also to protect our natural resources as it is. And we don't no longer want the corporate or the government to come and destroy our region anymore. We have already suffered enough, and we don't want our generation to suffer worse than us. Because we have suffered, and our forefather they have suffered a lot, and we also had suffered. But at least we have that stand to fight and to prove that this is our culture, this is our land, this is our identity, and we want to safeguard, and we want to live as what we are, and we want to live in our own land and in our region. At least in that context, we are still surviving and we are struggling. But if we don't fight today, then it will be too late to safeguard our upcoming generations to protect their identity. I think that is where we actually need to, focus and think about very seriously. Because I don't need to elaborate why the palm plantation is so much going to be very harmful to the regions and to the nature and to the environment. Everybody knows and everyone knows, because palm oil and palm tree is not going to produce anything even for the economic purposes to the regions, because there is no marketplace, and moreover it is all being understood palm oil is very cheap. Then when you really start planting of that cheap cost, then how are your economy is going to grow? We have so much crops that is very costly, where if we can grow that, then we can earn more, and our economic structures will actually grow up. So let the government of India take that initiative to actually promote our traditional, plantation. And in fact, let me tell you one thing, which I have also filed one PIL, and that is for 2018. I actually basically talk about the impact on the environment and the right to fresh air and so on and so forth. There, the Honorable High Court of Tripura has observed and has asked the government of Tripura and the Forest Department to plant 10% of the indigenous species, because indigenous species are the plants that actually keep the balance and makes the environment so sustainable, and produce all the natural that is required to the environment like before. So this has been actually strongly given order, and the forest department of Tripura is actually already started nurturing that, and they have already started planting to that. So further, I don't want that this kind of imported plant that is being. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think this palm has been actually started from African country like Nigeria, Kenya, then thereafter this Thailand. I'm sorry, the Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand, and here Sri Lanka and other things. So I think it is for us. It is our legitimate right to fight back to the policy of the government of India, which is not to the people's choice and not to the friendly environment and not to the nature of the Northeast and Northeast region and the Northeast land. So I think I have taken enough time, and I don't know whether there will be any questions hour or I don't know, or whether we are ending up with my just short sharing. Thank you very much.
We have a question session right now, and I already have got questions from the audience. So the first question comes from, can I continue? Okay. The first question comes from Elena Haishnam. So her question is, in a place like Manipur, where there is already a problem of ethnic conflicts, what is your, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now, but
Yeah.
in between the connectivity,
Oh, okay,
please
okay,
tell
okay.
me. Please,
I'll
can you
continue.
repeat the
Yeah,
question
yeah, yeah,
again?
yeah. I'll do that. So this question is from Elena Hishnam. She has put up this question that in a place like Manipur, where there is already a problem of ethnic conflicts, what is your speculation on the effect of oil palm plantation and ethnic issues?
Definitely, it is very much connected and interlinked because this ethnic conflict. Why the ethnic conflict actually arises? Because of the territory and because of the land and the culture and identity. When the government policy try to divide, for the political vote bank and benefit, then definitely this palm plantation will again create more conflict to the regions and to the people because one community will welcome because they were being just given certain lollipop and they will accept to that, and whereas the other community will not accept, and therefore there will be an already misunderstanding between the two community, and in that juncture there will always be a conflict because of these plantations. You don't want because just for your interest you cannot fulfill or you cannot exercise your interest just affecting to your neighbor or affecting to your other community, because the law itself says that just for your benefit interest you cannot violate the other's right. So I definitely there will be a more ethnic conflict, and this is what they want. No, this is this process of development. This plantation is of that kind of conflict that they're trying to create, so that when a community or ethnic conflict are there, then they get more scope to enter into it and to intervene and to start plantations and extract all your natural resources. But meanwhile you will be busy fighting to each other and you will forget the attention of the plantations.
I have another question from Jeetan Yumnam. He has put this based on experience of rubber plantations. Please expound how oil palm will intensify land grabbing of indigenous people in Tripura and Northeast.
See,
We have seen the rubber plantations.
I think actually in between some calls are coming and it got disconnected again. Can you hear me now? Okay. See, the rubber plantation basically, you know what basically they did? They said this is going to help your livelihood. And people without knowing anything, they have accepted and they have started, allowing the government to plant in their own land. Now, when the rubber start grow, growing. And when the latex is being collected, then they say this rubber doesn't belong to you because the government has planted into a forest land. Now, as I, who had planted the rubber given by the government, now I have looked after in between. But when the rubber has grown, then when it was time to collect the liquid, then the government said this is a forest land, and government started collecting the latex, and I lost the benefit. First, secondly, what happened? It was their intention to grab the land. By planting that rubber, my land is taken away. So slowly, it has expanded to the across the state. Therefore, many people have lost their land. Many people have lost their land, and that's why I have narrated that we lost our land through various means. One is population transfer, illegal migrants. Second is because of the forest. Third is because of these plantations. But it is not only the land that we lost, but it is also has destroyed the forest, the environment, the ecosystem, and the whole ecological, biodiversity has been totally destroyed. So now, if the palm tree is being planted, first is what? Once the palm is planted, nothing will grow under it. So you're not able to, collect your forest livelihood, natural, that vegetable that we get from the forest, and others, food items that we get from the forest, that will be totally, destroyed and it will vanish away. Thirdly, your land will be taken away by this plantation, by the corporate. Then you lost. Okay, you might get certain compensation because your lands are being taken away, or even you may be encouraged to plant more, palm oil tree, but you are actually replacing your original that is suitable with the nature, with the climate, and with the soil. That will be replaced by this palm tree. So definitely, gradually, your economy will decline to such a way that voluntarily you will leave that land and you will surrender that land. So that is what they actually looking forward through a very systematic way. That's why I said these policies are very much institutionalized in such a systematic way where you yourself will voluntarily surrender the land because that land will become a barren and it will not be useful anymore except the palm plantations. But you are not surviving because of that edible oil. As I have said, Northeast people are not used to eat oil. See, if I have to talk about Godok, Sakri, Ilambag, Berembuti, Aundru, Sakati, Satang, yeah, exact. All those things are so many varieties of, food that we have. We never use oil. And like for in Manipur, like Irumba, do you use oil?
No.
You don't use. So all those kind of food that item that we used to eat are we don't use oil. So oil is not necessity for us in terms of our food habit. But why the oil should become the important for our livelihood? No, it is not going to. Like someone who doesn't use oil and you are trying to promote that oil plantation, what is going to benefit? Nothing. So we'll become zero in terms of even of our livelihood. And in return, you are going to lose your land and you are going to, destroy your culture. And then you are going to be divided of, even the family will be divided because of this kind of policy that is being, I don't know what to use, but this is going to be, a very devastating situations in the regions. So that's why we are the experience of losing our land through the rubber plantation, and also it has totally changed the climate, and the underground water has been already dry up, and whereas even if you go 10 feet, 20 feet, we get water earlier. But after plantation of rubber and teak tree, today even if you go 150 feet down, you don't get water. That's why there is so much water crisis, and people are blocking the national highway, and people are fighting for the their right for the water. So water is not only consumed by the human being, but even the plants, even the biodiversity, even the other creatures require water. And if that water sources is being destroyed, how this cheap palm oil or the palm tree is going to actually benefit to the human life and to the environment? It is totally going to destroy. And yeah, see, even to get a rainfall, you need a dense forest, with a biodiversity, concentrations. So if that biodiversity concentration is not there, and only the palm tree, what it will produce? Nothing. It is not going to produce anything. So that's why I said it is not only like questions of land, but it is very much connected with land, culture, identity, and the nations. So I think that is very important to actually visit the whole, concept of the land right and our, the environment and biodiversity and our culture that is being linked with the forest. No? Because without forest, our life is, our culture is nothing. So now, if you are going to replace the forest, the diversity with a plantation of palm, then what you will get? Because we have witnessed in Sri Lanka, we have witnessed in Indonesia, we have witnessed in Malaysia and the rest of the country, whoever is actually inviting for the palm tree. And why the Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka is much poorer than the India, why they have actually decided to destroy the palm tree? Why? They have experienced how the environment has actually been destructed and destroyed, and how the climate change is affecting, how the socio-economic and cultural right of the people has actually destroyed and disturbed, and how the identity and the land of the people has been actually destroyed. So they have seen. So that's why they have decided. So that's why I'm saying the India need to think, and we the Northeastern people need to be very alert. I'm not saying that we are against the development. We are very much for the development, but development for the people's choice and for the suitable of the land, and for at the same time safeguarding the land and territory and the culture and identity of the Northeastern regions.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I think that sufficely explain the question which was asked. I have another question from Cecil Thonausum. He has asked, like, what are some of the impacts of monoculture plantation in Tripura? I mean, there might be some repetition, but I think you can elaborate on it.
Of course, the monoculture, as I have said, teak was a major plantations, and rubber plantation also was major, and also in between the Jatrapa plantation also came in, and also like other hybrid, crops like paddy and others. There's so many, which actually I don't know about the scientific name, but they actually brought in, but at the end of the day, they did not succeed. But only to some extent, they have succeeded the rubber plantation and teak tree, that too by destroying the entire forest and the impact of the environment, and also the natural resources, and also the land and the culture of the people. They have totally destroyed. That's why now people also start destroying the rubber plantations, whatever they have planted, and they knew, because one of the major issue is that they have reduced the price of the rubber in one hand, indirectly, in order to affect the livelihood of the people, because during the time of communist government, they said we are for the poor people. The the communist government is for the poor people. So every year their mandate and mandatory to make our indigenous people more 10% poorer and poorer and poorer. Therefore, today you also find in a city that some one or two people are begging in the street and in the city. So this shows that they don't want our people to grow richer. So they want us to become more poor and poorer. Therefore, they have actually reduced this rubber price knowingly, and that was the intentions, and therefore we have seen how this rubber has actually affected the life and culture of the Tripura people. This is, and even if you see this, the other paddy crop that they have introduced, many of our people have lost so much, land and their, crop and the cash. You know how? Because they said 1 kilo of paddy will able to cultivate almost half acres of land. Now they're believing of that they have actually started cultivating, but when they got not even a 10% of the total that land. But earlier the indigenous paddy, indigenous crop that we have planted, I mean, you get almost 90% crops where you can sustain almost throughout the years. So that has also actually destroyed. So there are many other multi-crop that has come in, but on time people have realized and people have rejected. So slowly that has actually been vanished away and that has been destroyed. So now people have understood. That's why now those people who are destroying the rubber plantation, they are replacing with a bamboo and with a butternut tree and others, crops. They have started planting.
Um, Thank you for that. I have another question from Tombaluwang. He said, I want to know the relationship between monoculture plantation and human rights violation.
See, of course, with the monoculture plantations, of course, there is always a human right violation. And when we understand the human right violation means violating the culture of the peoples and destroying the land, utilizations itself is a violation of the human right. See, suppose the rubber plantations or any other crop that is not suitable, or jatropha or any other crop that is not suitable for your temperatures and for your climate and for your soil, then why are you actually enforcing or forcing to go for cultivations? So that itself is a violation of human rights, and you are going against the conscience of the people. So of course, there is always a interlink, and there is always a connections of violation of human rights. Because human rights doesn't confine to only like killing, or your rights are being taken away, or your lands are being taken away, but it also to do with the culture, with the identity. As I say, and the living a luxurious life is not enough, but living a dignified life is most important than all those luxurious life, or all those with a cash, life, or other monoculture, other thing. So it has lot of connections with the human rights violations. I hope, I don't know, those people who are questioning me are getting a right answer, or I don't know. I'm trying my level best to answer to my understanding.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing that. And I think with this, we can end our session. But I would really like to thank you for giving us all this valuable information and for inspiring us to fight for our rights, and telling like giving the like inspiring us, and making us see that the responsibility right now lies on us, the youth, and yeah, for doing that. So thank you so much. I was really inspired by whatever you said today, and we would like to like keep in touch, and keep the conversation rolling so that we can learn from people like you who have been doing all this work for such a long time. So yeah. And yeah, Jitan Yumnam has said, thanks, Anthony. Inspiring comments indeed. Yeah, that's what he said. So yeah.
And thank you to Elizabeth for taking this initiative
Yeah.
to actually highlight the issue and concerns of our Northeastern people. So I would like to request and encourage all the young and all the scholar to actually come forward and to start, questioning and reasoning to the policymakers. And I think it is high time, and it is, see, whoever actually fight for the rights, for your individual right or for your community rights or for your nation rights, for your land rights, are all human rights defender. You doesn't require to be a part and parcel of the human rights organizations, but whoever fights for the right, they are all human rights defender. I think we should fight the for our right. But of course, one need to also understand when we fight for our right, we are not going against the uh, government of India, or we are not going against the legal binding, but we are very much there within the legal framework that we would like to raise. Because just before ending, I would like to tell you, we talked about the fundamental rights, right? But there is also a fundamental duty to protect the land and territory and resources and the environment and the climate, even the lake, pond and stream and so on and so forth. I think that fundamental duty need to be respected by the government of India and by the policymaker and by anybody, even so to say the corporate or the company, before they think for their benefit. I think that need to be really addressed. And lastly, just to encourage and motivate our people in the northeastern region, I would like to tell you that, see, it is better to die in the young age for the cause than to live like a old oak tree without bearing fruit. Let me repeat it again. It is better to die in the young age for the cause than to live like a wood oak tree without bearing fruits. I think we need to keep in mind this and fight for the rights. And when we fight for our right, I think we are also contributing positive towards our development and towards our government of India and the whole region of Northeast. But the only policymaker and the politician need to understand for what we are, standing and for what we are protesting is to safeguard not only for our, land and territory or our culture, but for the whole nation we are trying to protect. And they need to understand this concept and this like-minded life from the Northeast. Because Northeast people are peace-loving people, and we like to live in peace and harmony, and we don't want to be disturbed. And it is the people who actually propagate saying that Northeast is a disturbed zone and so forth. I think by now the rest of India should learn and should understand how the Northeast people are peace-loving people, and we protect the forest and we protect our nature. That's why today Indian government could grow, and that's why the rest of India is enjoying because of the rich resources, rich environment, rich culture, the biodiversity, and the diverse culture of the Northeastern people. I think India people should be proud of the Northeast people, and I invite and urge and request all the citizens of India to stand by the Northeastern people when and wherever we are in, problem with this kind of corporate policy and unwanted policy and the development which is against the people mandate and people consent. No? So thank you very much, Elizabeth. I hope you can, of course, if there is no other questions or other comment, I think maybe you can end up from your end because you are the host.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the last comment about that we should be all together and fighting for our own rights and everything. So and for reminding that we actually matter to the economy, because time and again we have been told by the government that like that the Northeast is dependent on India, but it's the other way around. So like it feels that we need to
it,
be reminded
it's,
that,
it's, it's just a simple common sense.
yeah,
When do the northeastern region join the larger part of India? Prior to that, like let me give you an example. Tripura was a priestly state. We have our own constitutions. We have our own currency before India independent. So that point of time, are we, surviving because of the, central government? No. We have become poor and we have become backward because we have become part and parcel of India, where the Indian policy, the government of policy is against the people, mandate. Because we know our land and our region, and we know how to generate economic, and we know how to generate the crops and the, the fruits and the other climate and other forest production. We know. But you, someone who is sitting in Delhi, is not aware about our culture. You don't know about our land. You don't know about our system of cultivating. You don't know about our systematic of, safety cultivation that we do. See, let me give you one example. In Zoom cultivations, in one plot of land, we cultivate more than 50 crops at a time, and we harvest them different time. So that scientifically it has supported us for our livelihood through a very systematic way. So we are survived and we are sufficient throughout the years because our crops give us the fruits into a different time. So June, paddy, rice, we have already finished harvesting. We have already finished harvesting of a lot of vegetable and maize and other things. Now what we are harvesting? We are harvesting cotton. We are harvesting this, what you call like a master seed that we plant. We call it shipping. And we are harvesting other crops. See, right from the beginning of the year till the end of the year, we are systematically sufficient with our crops and we are sustaining our livelihood in such a system way. So it is the policy, it is the other system that has actually made us backward today. So I don't believe that we depend upon on the center just because today they have actually destroyed our economic system and our traditional system and our customary system. That is why we are into this situation. But if you look back the earlier, we are self-sufficient. Now today, if they are saying who's supplying electricity power, energy power to the rest of the country, Tripura is such a tiny state, only 10,492 square kilometer is supplying the energy power to Nepal, to Bangladesh, to Bhutan and the rest of the country. We're surplus. Then from where this economic, generation is coming? Now Assam, Assam is producing petrol and also the power and so many other natural resources. Bamboo, from where it is coming? Even the wood is coming. The entire forest natural resources are in the northeast, and that's why today India can proudly say that we are going to become a powerful country in the coming days because we are so much rich in terms of natural resources in the northeastern region. That's it.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. We really need that to be reminded again and again to ourselves, so that the fight will go on for the rights and everything. I will end today's session right now, and I thank you for all the information that you have given us. It was a very fruitful evening, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and
Yeah,
thanks for your all team and for all the organizers. Thank you
thank you,
and good
everyone.
night and
Yeah,
have a blessed
yeah,
night. Thank you. Thank you very much.
yeah. Thank you.